Oh, well, good. But I'd love to hear that.
I'm sure you wrote it. For Michelle Chance Sangthong, one of the greatest loves of her life is speaking from the stage to educate and motivate audiences.
Well done.
For more than 10 years, she has delivered training and motivational presentations from Las Vegas to Orlando.
It's true.
As a lifelong entrepreneur with 20 years experience in online marketing, Michelle brings a unique perspective to making the most of opportunities to leverage content marketing. Michelle's goal is always to give you something to walk away with, some sort of thoughts or ideas, not just come up here and preach. So, Michelle Chance Sangthong, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
It's always a pleasure.
Glad you're here.
So glad to be here. How many of you are currently doing content marketing for your existing business or for your clients? Anybody not? Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. If you're writing, you probably are, and you might not even know it, just so that we're clear. I am Michelle Chance Sangthong, and I am all those things that he said right up until the point that he said, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I had to stop and think for a minute. How is it possible that I've been doing this for 20 years? I just started a few years ago in 1995. What happened? Well, I am so excited to be here tonight. One of the things that makes me really happy to be here is that I was actually the founder of this organization. And so it really makes me happy to come back and see lots of new faces from lots of new places here today. I didn't even plan that alliteration. That went really well. But it really is true. We have a lot of different backgrounds. When we first started this meetup, it was really e-commerce people and marketing people. There weren't just like regular people here. So welcome, regular people. You're among the gods and goddesses, and we're glad to have you. I am the online marketing goddess, and tonight we are going to talk about leveraging content marketing. So, we were worried about the slides at first, but we couldn't miss the pickles and the pecks, right? We had to have the pickles and the pecks. But the reality is what is content, right? We think about content and we always boil it down to writing a post or something, but truly, content is anything that shows up on a device. Now, there's offline content marketing too, but tonight we're really focused on online content marketing. So in the back, Scott's creating content. He could take that content and turn it into a little ebook from this evening by doing a transcript. He'll have a video capture. He could even take the slides and turn them into a slide share. And now we've done one thing and created 4 pieces of content. I'm going to let that sink in a second. Did y'all hear me? Are y'all alive out there? It's too early for y'all to be this asleep. Okay. I do this all the time, by the way. I wrote a book a few years ago about creating more content in less time. And the whole idea is that you're always creating content. You're answering emails. You're helping customers. You're looking up stuff on the web. You are always creating content at some level. The question is, how are you capturing it and how are you doing something with it? Back in the beginning, when Google came along, because I started this before Google was born. Before Google was born, that sounds really funny, doesn't it? Before Google was born, and when they came along, they sort of changed things for us because Google wanted things to be ranked in a search engine and show up. And we were all happy to have things show up. And a lot of us really were quite good at it. And in fact, it was really limited to the gods and goddesses who could do this stuff. It was amazing, and it was hard. And so it was click, and we'll click again. There we go. It was hard work putting stuff on the web. How many of you have been putting content on the web for more than 10 years? All right, fantastic, thank you. You used to have things like FTP, right? Or maybe even you did code in Notepad. Can you imagine such a thing now, having to write all of your code by hand? It was hard. But what was really cool about that is it was limited to the priesthood. You were either a part of the priesthood or you were not. And for those of us who are part of the priesthood, it was a pretty good place to be. You know, because I have been known to be a Google whisperer. I don't whisper at Google quite as much anymore, but I used to have a lot of control because I knew how to leverage these tools. And then time passed. Things happened. And we blinked, and all of a sudden, the whole world of internet marketing has changed. Does everybody remember when internet marketing changed? Maybe you don't. You're the lucky ones. But some of us do. Some of us remember. And then these tools came along. There was WordPress. There was content management systems. There were ways that people could put content on the web, and they didn't need Mary to just do any ordinary site. But Mary does the extraordinary sites and the extraordinary things. But all at once, people felt liberated. And then there were these tools, you know, Pinterest, Facebook, Blogger, and all of these other ways that people began to put their own content on the web without the help of the gods and goddesses. It was like something shifted in time. If you guys saw that movie, A Penny in Time, or is it Somewhere in Time, where they find the penny in the desk and he goes back and forth? That's almost what it feels like for those of us who've been doing this for a long time. If you can relate to what I'm saying, go ahead and nod your head. It's okay. If you have no freaking clue, it's all right. You're in the better side of it, I promise you. Because now, things are simpler. And in fact, some of you probably have kids who can write code from a phone. I'd be willing to bet. And some of them may be able to write code better than you or I. And they don't even need a desk somewhere. They can sit in the middle of a park, catch a few Pokemon, write some lines of code, upload it, create an app, and be done with their day. And here we are, worrying about if we can write a blog post. Right? What kind of content am I going to create? I don't know. Okay, I don't really do good with the wham-whams, but you'll hear a few of them tonight. But people do. They get all wham-wham about the idea that this is hard. This is not hard. Shut up. And just so you know, shut up for me is like one of the worst words I can say. Way worse than any of the other ones you can even think of. So if you think it's hard now, it's not. But it takes persistent and consistent effort. The web has gone through a transformation. It truly, truly has. There was a time when you only had to compete with those people who got into the race. It was like being at the Olympics, right? You only had to compete against other marketing agencies, other SEO people. You didn't have to compete against moms and pops with blogs and phones and all these other things. And now you compete with anybody. Anybody who has access to a keyboard. If they can belly up to a keyboard, they have a phone, they have a camera with Wi-Fi, they're creating content. Create the content for consistent customers, people that you know buy from you, people that you know love what you sell. Who are those people? Because for them, you need to become the brand. Or did somebody say brand? Did I hear brand? Not the Kleenex. But do you understand? Do you understand why I have tissues there? Because what do you call those? And that's a brand name, not a product, right? But you don't go into the store and say, can I get some Kleenex please, and get some tissues please. You ask for Kleenex, right? Maybe you ask for Puffs if you like the little special kinds. Still a brand, not a product. Now, you might say to me, Michelle, we came here tonight to talk about leveraging content marketing. And you would be right. But all at once, Michelle, this is starting to sound an awful lot like just marketing. Is anybody feeling that we're kind of talking about marketing? Just marketing. The advertising executive in the room is nodding her head like, don't knock your glasses off. But yes, absolutely. Because how do you really tell the difference between content marketing and marketing, right? The reality is that we started measuring them differently when the tools became available. And we measure them badly. How many of you know that you measure badly? If you aren't raising your hand, then you're lying to yourself. Because the reality is someone may walk into your, I don't know what website you sell these on. Someone may come and look at this on your website. They leave your website. They go back to Facebook. You retarget them on Facebook. They come back to your website again. They go talk to Sebastian. They say, Sebastian, have you heard of this headset? And he's like, oh, dude, I totally saw that headset, man. It's so awesome. It's so cool. And they go back, and then they Google the name of your headset, and they click a pay-per-click ad. And they come to your site, and they go, oh, I don't think I'm ready yet. And it says, hey, I'm going to leave again. And then you're running a Google repeat ad, a Google retargeting ad, and then they come and buy. And somebody tried to say only the retargeting ad worked. But those were all brand impressions. Those were all brand impressions. And had you not been creating content in whatever those areas were, in this case it was paid, didn't have to be. On Facebook it could have been paid but content, right? We neglect to think about the ways people find us, right? We neglect to think about that. But the reality is it is all marketing. It is all marketing. Are we okay? If we're okay, say yes? Yes. I'm sorry? Yes. All right, thank you. So what I learned about leveraging content marketing was really, really simple. And I'm going to boil it down into a few steps for you. Is that all right? Yes. Fantastic. Thank you. First, I had to do some systemization. Aside from being just a goddess, I actually work with clients. I do public speaking. And I'm a business coach for a company called Marketer's Brain Trust. So in order for me to do everything that I need to do in a day, I need systems. How many of you like systems? Woohoo! If you don't like systems, you need to learn to like systems. But in order to create more content, we had to source content ideas, right? And these are all writer-downers. Then, if you're not the writer, you have to find a writer or a content producer to do this for you, right? Whether it's creating original content, creating summaries, creating opinions, writing reviews, sending out and having bloggers write reviews. There was a blogger in the room who might write reviews, hint, hint, all right? But then after they write it, you've got to get that onto your website, i.e. blog in most cases. I use blog very liberally here to cover the multitude of sins that a content marketing system is or content marketing software is, because it makes sense, it's easy, right? And then they need to have some images for those, so we've got to source some images, we've got to put some images there. Because how many of you like to go to Facebook and see something that's been shared and there's no image? Because how sexy is that? It's not even close as sexy as I am. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, right? And then you got to share it to social media. But you have to have a system and a way that you're doing this on a regular basis. You need a content calendar. If you don't have a content calendar. By the way, side hint, if you are using WordPress, there is a really cool plugin that is a calendar that works right in there, and so you can click calendar view of your post and see when things are posting. And I would just Google or on WordPress search calendar plugin. I'm loving it for the client I'm going to show you an example for in a minute, because we're regularly creating content that she wants to go out at certain times, so I can pick it up and drag it and change the publish date. If you haven't seen that, it's pretty cool. So where do we get ideas? Where do you get ideas for your content now? Case studies, other websites. Spy like a mofo. I love it. Questions customers are asking. Reviews. Absolutely. Great ideas. Questions people have asked. If you're returning emails every day, by the way, the last two companies I've tried to reach on the web don't ever write me back, so I'm not happy at the moment. So if customers are sending you emails and you're not writing them back, shame on you. Both of them lost a couple $100 sales. Not big sales for them, but big sales to me. And I might not need them the next time I have something bigger. And I didn't tell you that they were American Eagle, whatever their name was, but no, it was, I don't know. Actually, I didn't. I just put them completely out of my mind because I was frustrated because I actually met this person in person and went to their website and said, "We will call you back tomorrow." 5 days later, no call, no email. So I'm not really very forgiving. So feel free, if you call me and I don't call you back, to not forgive me either, because I figure it's all fair play, right? So now that you have some content ideas, who's going to write that if it's not you? Maybe you can go to a Fiverr.com. There are writers there. Some people don't like that. Some people do like that. It's okay. You decide what's good enough for you. Not everything has to be written by a Rhodes Scholar. Do you realize that most of the people reading on the web are reading at a 7th or 8th grade level, not because they're not intelligent, but because they're in a hurry, and they're reading on devices? I had a device here somewhere. They're reading on devices, and money. Wow, that's cool. They're reading on devices called phones, and they're reading fast at red lights and in elevators and at desks before the boss walks over, and the checkout line, right? Yeah, that's actually a great tip right there. The checkout line. How are headlines and content written for the checkout line? You guys know what I'm talking about? Tabloids. All the tabloids. They get your attention, don't they? Right? Right? Now, don't be clickbaity because Facebook's about to crack down on that. But there's also, it used to be called Odesk. There's now something called Upwork. Right? So now that you've got Upwork, now that you've got writing, now you need some place to put it. You need a website. Maybe you'll use WordPress. But if you don't trust the people from Upwork or trust the people from Odesk or whatever it is to actually have a login access to your site, now you've got to have somebody to actually take the content from them and put it on your site. And by the way, that used to be a huge problem for me. I had a great writer. She ran a whole team of writers. But back in the day, we didn't have a way to schedule content back in 2003, 2004. And so I would get 40 new articles for my website written, and then I'd get 3 of them posted before I realized a year had passed and I hadn't posted anymore. Because at that point, I didn't have it on my calendar to go and add this piece of content, and no one else in my business could do it. I used to have an e-commerce business. We sold retail goods, engraved gifts. We did about $5 million over the course of 10 years. So I've cut my teeth, blood and bones in e-commerce and understand it more than I sometimes care to remember. But that's a whole nother story. But you have to have someone who can put that content up or someone that you trust in your website. Then, once it's on your website, you have to tell the social sphere, right? Because again, if you put it on your website and you tell no one, it doesn't matter that it's there. You're the forest in the middle of the tree that nobody knows exists. And so you can use a tool like Hootsuite to get that information out to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. I don't know if that actually posts to Instagram, but whatever your tools are, there are tools for it. You need a system to do it. You can even use a tool like Buffer to find out which posts were most engaging, and Hootsuite may have this as well. I've not ever used Hootsuite. And you can then repeat the things and reschedule the things that people liked. Imagine that, rescheduling and telling more people about the thing that other people liked. Some people think that's kind of weird. Like, why would I want to tell them again? Because I already told them. How many of you are measuring your engagement on Facebook right now? What would you say your average reach is for any post in a percentage of how many, non-paid, in a percentage of how many people you have who like your page? Or 3 people? On average it was 3. Any other thoughts here? Yeah, I'm seeing for pages that are under 1,000, I'm seeing 1% or less. And for pages that are over 1,000 like, I'm seeing less than 0.5%. I work on about 36 different Facebook pages, so I have access to a lot of data all the time. It's sad. But the reality is Facebook's doing its job. Because you don't want to log into Facebook and see all these ads and business page posts. You want to see Uncle Tom's new little puppy and the kids' first day of school pictures and all these things. You didn't come to Facebook, even though it's free, to look at these ads and all these business postings. So you have to be smart about that, and you have to repeat it. And there was an article just yesterday, and if I can find it, I'll share it in the Jomm group, about better times of day to share. Because at any given moment when you log in, Facebook could show you any 10 of 1,000 things. And so Facebook has to make, on the fly, a decision about what the best 10 things are to show you. Well, if you log in at 10 o'clock at night, you see something completely different than if you logged in at 5, right? And so throughout the day, depending on who's posting and who's sharing, that information is different. Now, let's talk about reusing that content. I use software that allows me to take the new content that comes onto my blog and email it out to the people who are on my list. How many of you are doing that? Ooh, we got some people, they all congregate on this side of the room. Believe it or not, email still works. I will tell you, the more people you have on your list, the fewer that might get opened. And it's okay. And if people opt out, it's okay. Give them a place to opt out. I heard a great tip years ago. I may have even shared this at another meetup. At the top of your email, where there's that option for people to unsubscribe, but it says spam, leave it the word spam, but change it to the unsubscribe link. So they can report you as spam, but they're just unsubscribing and not hurting your blacklisting or your whitelisting or any of those things. You know, Let people opt out if they don't want your email. It's okay. Don't be sad. Let them go because they're not going to buy from you anyway. All right? Now, in the room, you guys are creating some original content every week for either yourselves or your customers. How much are you creating each week for an average customer or for yourself? I know you're a blogger, so you're at least doing one a week for sure.
I'm doing one a week, but I repurpose it from the blog post to a podcast to a video on YouTube. So
I love you.
yeah, I take one piece of content and repurpose it.
Fantastic, fantastic.
And then actually record it live first. So I'm leveraging Facebook Live and Blab and Periscope.
Y'all write that down? Write that down. You should be writing that down. Asia should be writing that down for you. Right? Facebook Live. By the way, you can download the video, send that video. If you can't transcribe it, send it to a transcription service if you aren't able to do it for yourself. Right now you can use it Facebook. It's already there. You can use it on YouTube. It's already there. Got the transcript. You've got a blog post. You've got an email. You've got a... And what did you do? You spent 10 minutes on Facebook Live. And you had a system to turn that into multiple amounts of content. Is that good or good? Oh, great. Very good. So I'm producing across the clients that I'm working for and working with right now about 45 or 50 new pieces of content a week. So the question is, how much do you need? How much content do you need? Only you know that, because every business is different. The VR headset business is very different than the we bring Wi-Fi to your business, right? Or the marketing business, or the bison business, or the bison business, right? It's different. He doesn't have as many competitors as Mary, because not that many people sell bison, I'm guessing. Oh, what did I? Oh, was it bison?
That's a good idea.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was that Georgia accent.
We sell CDs, DVDs, and USB memory chips.
Oh, okay. Well, a lot of people are, you got a lot of competition, never mind, it's not bison. But, you know, steal the bison, it's fine. It's okay with me. Ted Turner won't mind. So how much more content should you be creating? As much as you can. You guys, anybody have a dog like that? That just every possible ball. Like, I couldn't find the one that had, there's like one that has like 9 or something, just this lab that has this gigantic jowl. But more is better. If you're producing 1, you need to be producing 2. If you're producing 5, you need to produce 10. I would venture to say there is an upper limit for maximum effective dose, but you haven't hit your minimum effective dose yet, so you don't really have to worry about that. Okay? I have a client, and this is 2 years worth of data, and this is only organic. This is what content marketing has done for them. They're in a fairly small market, and it's okay. They're nationwide. They're a nationwide company. But over organic growth over 2 years, we were originally creating 2 pieces of content a month for them, working with them. Then we moved it to 4 pieces of content a month. Where that blue line is, we moved it to 12 pieces of content a month. Okay? And that blue line is January of this year.
What does that mean?
So they were originally writing to...
What do you measure?
This is organic traffic to their website over 2 years, and the organic traffic represents just about 30% of their total traffic. And I'll put another slide in here you guys probably can't see. But organic, while it's at the top, there's still lots of other traffic. Social, the other, which is being shared with Buffer, direct traffic, referral traffic, email.
What do you think the organic is to their spend on pay-per-click?
For these folks, well, we have probably only spent in pay-per-click in 2 years, maybe $2,000 in 2 years. It's very low. It's very low because we're, you know, growing it the other way. And by the way, I should be spending more. I'm not spending all the budget I have. Shame on me, but I've been focused on organic. Did you guys notice I didn't say SEO, though? Organic traffic, people finding you. I'm not talking about SEO, right? I'm focused on traffic.
Can you go back?
Sure.
Why did it go down at the very last
Absolutely. I'd be happy to tell you. Summer is their slow season. And it's a seasonality thing, we believe. We'll be able to know more soon, but for now we believe it's seasonality. But the reality is you have to put in the work. Content marketing will not work if you don't work it, right? What is it? Is it AA or these other things? It works if you work it. Same thing. Get addicted to developing content. If you just stick your shovel in the sand and you don't keep digging, you can't go deeper. You can't build a big enough hole to catch all the people who want to do business with you. Think about it like this. If you were saving, because content is evergreen, if you're doing this so smart, it's evergreen. We understand the idea of evergreen content. A lot of heads shaking, good. Content that can be used over and over. So don't write a whole bunch of blog posts just about Christmas in the middle of July unless you're having a Christmas in July sale. Okay? However, if you're in e-commerce and you're impacted by the Christmas season and Christmas decisions, you should be writing that Christmas content in March or April so it has time to percolate. Does that make sense? It's not new, fresh content, but you can keep making more content like it. Every time you put a piece of content on your blog or out into the blogosphere or wherever, it grows, right? You add a second one, you add a third one, you add a fourth one. You continue to add content. It keeps working. I spend money on pay-per-click. I've spent the money. It's gone. You guys with me? You guys understand this concept? Imagine that you'd like to go to Hawaii. I'm supposed to cue the music there when I messed that up. So, and you and your spouse have agreed, and it's going to cost $5,200 to get to Hawaii. Nice, easy numbers. And so the two of you decide that you're going to put away $100 every week in order to get there. And after a year, you should have enough money to go to Hawaii. But you're like me and Dave Ramsey. You're not putting it on a credit card. You're saving the money up. And not until you have that money do you do it. Well, you start saving, you get a few hundreds, but then there's a bunch of $1 bills under there, right? And you stop doing the work. You stop saving the money. When do you get to go to Hawaii? When do you get to go to Hawaii if you change that to $50 or to $20 or to $10 a week? It exponentially changes your ultimate result, right? You guys get that, how that works? You can't. You just have to make boatloads of content and keep doing something with it. Content marketing is hard if you don't have a system in place. So what I did, and I told you, is I put a system in place. It wasn't a perfect system. I was working hard for that content. I was probably creating, I may have a slide here coming up. I was putting in multiple hours a week, and I wasn't even doing the writing, and there was a lot of detail involved because we didn't have a system. We got a system, and we got it down to me doing about an hour's worth of work a week. And then we learned how to automate it, which was really cool. Systematize, then automate. I'm not talking about robots writing content either, just so that you guys understand. For those who've been around this a long time, I'm not talking about spinning content. I'm not talking about article writers. I'm not talking about that crappy stuff. I'm talking about real, original content. And then we started turning enough levers that I actually now can create content for about $1.50 per piece. 100 to 200 words, original human-written content for about $1.50 each with some automation software that I use. There it is. 1 to 2 hours a week, managing these systems for the client. This is the same sort of idea that we talked about before. Getting the ideas, hiring the writers, manually posting to the blog, adding images and sharing to social media. 1 to 2 hours per week. Now, here's the part that's interesting. The purple line is when we went to 4 posts a month. The blue line is when we went to 12 posts a month. 12 posts a month isn't a lot. We post Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Actually, it's Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. All right? But when January arrived, my colleagues at the Marketer's Brain Trust introduced me to a piece of software that they've been using. I'd been around these guys for 2 years. And I'm like, how the hell did I not know about this? This really bites. I was pretty upset for a few minutes, then I got over it. Because here, with automation, let's see, they're in the wrong order. Darn it. Automation is when I put that in with the software from Marketer's Brain Trust. We talked about that. So now the automation is human selected content ideas. So we've already gone out and we've sourced websites that have content that is relevant to our audience. A human, in this case my assistants, picks stories. Those stories are submitted into a writing process. Those writers write the content. It's approved by other people, made sure that it's good, and then it comes back and goes into a scheduler and automatically posts to my website. Those writers don't have to have access to my website. Then, by the way, we add an image to that with a plugin in the WordPress software called Quick Featured Images Pro. That's $79 for a developer's license a year if you have more than one site. It's cheap. It lets you go put images on old posts, lets you put future images posts. Then the machine does social amplification. It shares it out to Facebook. And then the posts that are deemed worthy go into a repeater process. And remember we talked about resharing that content? That goes back into a repeater content thing. So now it's about 2 hours a month for the assistant, 1 hour for me, managing the overall system for about 12 posts. And we spend, I don't know, whatever 10 times $1.50 is, $15 a month in actual content writing money. When you only have a handful of writers available, it's very hard to scale. When you're the only writer, it's very hard to scale, right? If you're your brand, you may have some concerns about that. It's okay. This is just to open your mind a little bit. By the way, I'm not here to sell you anything in case a couple people got worried. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm just telling you how I have automated this process for myself. But just to open your mind to the idea that there are opportunities and options out there. So when I changed over to PowerPoint, it ate my beautiful font here, so forgive me. We could take this up, and it's scalable. We could take her to 25 additional posts per month, and it's going to cost me about $36 extra and maybe 1 hour more in time for myself and my assistant. We could go to 100 posts per month, and maybe a total of 3 hours more between all of us for $150, yes.
How many words per post?
Those are about, for the $1.50, they're about 100 to 200 words. Yeah, we have some that they can be done more cheaply, and those are about 110 to 130 words.
Having short blog posts like that versus having 600 words, what do you see?
Well, I think, and by the way, his question was having short blog posts better than long blog posts. So 4 150-word blog posts are 4. 1 600-word blog post is 1. So it really depends on what your market is. Now, I'm not talking about your featured content, oh my gosh, this is how, we're talking about content, answering questions, reaching your market, being aware. Remember back at the beginning, being in front of your audience, having content to share with them. Every single piece doesn't have to be front page of the newspaper, right? That doesn't mean you don't still have a front page of the newspaper, but there's a whole lot of fluff in the newspaper. Have you guys noticed lately? Well, actually, there's not, because you kind of pick it up and there's no paper left. It's kind of sad. Did you have a hand up? Nope, just right there. Okay, all right, we're good. And so this particular software is called Result Flow. That turned out really well with the font loss there. Oh well. Blah, 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 blah. You know what? We got to roll with it, right? Because it happens. I put it in Google Slides thinking that would be the best possible way to make it useful and easy, except that when I got here, Google Slides wouldn't work with the clicker. So thank you for understanding. Result Flow is software that allows us to leverage the scale of Amazon MTurk. You guys ever heard of MTurk? So MTurk is a system that Amazon put together because they needed mass quantities of content reviewed on their site. When you buy something on Amazon and you go and leave a review on it, before it ever goes live on the site, a human has looked at it. You know, when you're doing $1 million an hour, I can't even imagine how many reviews there are, but we're starting to pay people a nickel and a dime to come in and read this content and make sure that it matched the product and it didn't include anything harassing, bad, illegal, inappropriate. And so they developed this machine. The idea of MTurk, Mechanical Turk, was based on something I think it was in Russia. There was this idea of the Mechanical Turk, this box that would play chess, except there was really a man inside the box. And so the cheeky part of this is there really are people inside the box at Amazon. And so we're able to take this software, send out information through the automation process, have them write content, read particular blog posts, write summaries, write opinions, write reviews, whatever the case is. And reviews are typically reviewing the post, not reviewing an actual product. And then we use workflow automation to make all of that happen in the background, back to the approval process, back to the blog. And it just makes it all scalable. It makes it all scalable. And that is important. If you had 100 blog posts today and 300 pieces of content next month, do you think you would be generating more traffic to your website? Because, by the way, I'm all about the profits. I'm not about creating content just for the hell of it, right? I'm talking about creating content that does stuff, right? My client who's had the growth, how are we doing time? Oh, 8:01. Good, I only have 40 minutes left. We're excellent. No, I'm actually almost at the end. So the idea is that being able to scale this can make a difference for businesses. And whether you use our system or your own systems doesn't matter. If content marketing is not working for you, it's because you don't have enough content. Period. Rachel, would you agree with that statement? You don't have to agree just because you like me, but I mean, but the reality is, you only have to beat your nearest 5 competitors, right? And so if they're producing, you look at a HuffPo or look at an Amazon or look at, Wikipedia, how much content they're creating each day, right? Look at your competitors, how much content are they creating each day? You only need to outrun them. It's just like the guy and the bear. You guys know the guy, 2 guys camping, and the bear comes along. The guy stops to tie his shoes. He's like, dude, hurry up. How are you going to outrun the bear? He goes, I don't need to outrun the bear. I just need to outrun you. Right? If you are interested in any case studies or anything, let me know. I'd be happy to share those with you about how we're making this work for clients. And now we have a few takeaways. See, I wasn't kidding, Tommy. We're really there. 1, you have to keep building content. You have to keep banking it. You have to keep building content for your site. And whether it is videos, writing, pictures, whatever it is, you have to keep doing it because it's work. And you must work in order to reap the rewards. There are easy buttons. You can put some systems in place. You can put some automation in place. But ultimately, the work has to be done. It won't magically appear for you if you don't have some efforts there. Do you guys have any questions for me?
You said there's a point at which there's too much content. Can you define that in any capacity?
Well, to share on Facebook, I think more than once an hour would be too much. But I think every hour would be too much on Facebook, for instance. But you could still put 20 new blog posts on your own website every day. And how, other than not necessarily sharing every one of those, how would that be bad for content? And so there is a point where you have diminishing returns. And for your business, you would have to test that and see. You're in the Wi-Fi business. People are looking for Wi-Fi for, I'm assuming it's Wi-Fi for events, or not at all?
We do everything from co-work jacks to a coffee shop.
Right, and so you don't have as high a competitive, even though Wi-Fi is competitive, there aren't that many people who do what you do. And so you may not need to do as much, especially if you're only in the local market, right? And Mary is in the Northeast Florida, Southeast Georgia region, but she also has to compete with 100 other agencies here in town. There are at least 100 other agencies who are not nearly as good, brilliant, talented, kind as she is, but she still has to compete with them, as well as all the people working from their desk in their homes who aren't actually agencies but pretend to be ones, right? And then sell websites for $57.12. Yes?
Do you develop content around the personas? Or do you deal with personas and cultivate those to help drive some of that content?
Absolutely. So I mentioned avatar. And so the idea is that, like, for instance, when we're working with a client trying to help them put together their content, we have different levels of service that we do, but we'll have an avatar call with a client, and we talk about who their ideal customer is, how old they are, what their education is, what magazines do they read, Do they go to the opera? Are they married or divorced? What is their biggest regret in life? What thing brings them joy? And we really get a clear picture of who that person is, and we endeavor to get content around that idea of a person, right? And so a mom who is breastfeeding is a completely different mom than corporate mom who has kids in high school. Both moms, but different content. Does that make sense? And so we absolutely do think about that, and you should think about that for your content too. And you'll have multiple personality disorder with what's going on in your business because it just happens. But you have to think about what that core is and where your best customers are. Does that make sense? Fantastic.
Well, repurposing content and duplicate content and with the duplicate using license.
So for duplicate content, in our case, we haven't seen that. You could certainly use something like a copyscape if you're concerned about duplicate content. But what I'm talking about is not about creating duplicate content on your website. So if you're creating a blog post that you're turning into a PDF, those are two different things in my mind. I don't sweat duplicate content as much as we probably used to, but we were sweating duplicate content because I was writing one article and I was giving it to 17 of you to put on your website. And now we handle that with canonical tags, if that's a problem. If I do need to syndicate an article to someone in here, I would put a canonical tag in the HTML that says the original content lives here. Does that make sense? Yeah, so I don't sweat that as much, and we aren't having that as much. We have systems in place for our stuff where, for instance, there's a spell checker and there's a word length checker. And so if it's supposed to be a 200-word post, we might give them to 250 words. If it's over 250 words, there's a really good chance that they copied and pasted the original article and tried to game the system, and the system goes, you don't get paid. Sorry, goodbye. And so, or there's spell checks, which sometimes can be a problem if you're in a highly technical space. But, for the most part, it works out really, really well. So, yes, Sebastian.
Which content is harder to write for a product or a service?
Yes.
Which one is harder?
It depends on what you're selling. So for me, I would rather write content around a product because I think products often have a really clear understanding. But you could still write product content around a service. Let's say that you're a photographer. But the problem is, do you do weddings? Do you want to do weddings? Not just no, but hell no. He doesn't want to do weddings, okay? So he's not going to be trying to create content for brides about great wedding portraits, right? So you really, again, it goes back to understanding how you relate to that person. When we sold our e-commerce products, I personally was not the avatar for anything we ever sold. So I had to get my head in the mind of other people. I got to explore my inner multiple personality disorder. We sold money clips. And do you guys want to hear just very fast, very funny story? You guys are going to laugh at me. Would you like a chance to laugh at me? Yes. Okay. We were selling money clips. Thank you. We were selling money clips. We were selling them really well because they were being advertised on television. They were being advertised on television, and people were going to AOL. This is in early 2000. And in keyword search, they were typing the URL of the company advertising on television. People would come to our website and buy them. Beautiful, because back then, URLs were just keywords. They weren't actually redirected to the URL in the early 2000, 2001. It was beautiful. Oh, it was a beautiful thing. We opened our business from day one until September 11th. We opened in April. We went no day without any order. I didn't know why e-commerce was so hard. Well, what's the problem, people? So one day, someone ordered 6 money clips from me, and I thought, surely this must be an error. Who the hell needs 6 money clips? Right? And so what do? I'm naive. I pick up the phone and I say, hi, John, this is Michelle. You ordered 6 money clips from us. I just want to make sure that was right. One, because if I sent them out and it wasn't right and I lost them, that's money, right? And he said, yeah, I wanted 6. I was like, I hope you don't mind me asking, why do you need 6 money clips? He goes, oh, they're for my groomsmen. It gets better. I go, what's a groomsman? Right? I'd never been a groom. I didn't know what those guys were called, right? But immediately I hung up the phone and I told my wife, I said, we don't sell money clips anymore. We sell groomsmen's gifts, and that's all you need to know. And we totally started hammering the groomsmen's gift market, transformed our business, understanding what we were selling. So we went from a $50,000 business to $125 to $275 in 3 years by understanding the market and understanding the products. But that's just marketing. So I can't say which one's easier. It's about understanding what you understand.
So going back to when you were speaking about when content, you have people that are buying your products because of your like personality that you sell or followers that you have. Um, how do you? What is too much content on that particular page if it has nothing to do with like the business side and you're just a social person that people follow? Is it can you overdo the content on that particular platform?
Let me reword this and make sure I understand. So you have a celebrity
Right.
who might be writing about your product, for
Right.
instance, on their own
Like
page.
It's a celebrity platform.
Right.
But to advertise the product, is it like can you overkill when you're
You can always overkill.
okay?
You can
So, like,
overkill.
what's too much? Like,
Well, it would depend on what the market would bear. I mean, the thing that's interesting is we put up with a lot as consumers. Like, when's the last time you turned on a TV show in Hulu and had a commercial A and then commercial B, and before the program was back, commercial A comes on again? Annoys the crap out of me. But it happens all the time, right? And then you see that same commercial 7 times in that 30-minute show.
even
Right.
on YouTube, when you go
Even on YouTube or wherever it is, right? And so you can ramp things up gently and figure out what works. You have to still be respectful of the market. And by the way, when I'm talking about creating content and sharing on your social media pages, I'm not talking about pages that say, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, I'm so awesome, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. I'm talking about, how do you know what the best VR headset is? Have you ever tried to walk with a VR headset? Do you know why kids shouldn't use VR headsets? Are parents aware of these problems with VR headsets? Oh my gosh, we can't tell them about problems. Yes, you can. You need to have conversations and build trust. Thank you, Garrett, right over there. Trust. Does that make sense, guys? Is that helpful? So I can't say for your specific case how much is too much. I think somewhere in here I had a slide that said every business is different, but you can test and ramp up. And if you get to a point that you're not getting any more love for what you're doing, well then maybe you've capped that out.
right.
You know, and the market may have changed.
Even when you mentioned Facebook, and it kind of brought back something like it was created to share pictures of personal moments and stuff like that. So when you do get a lot of advertisement, sometimes it can be very annoying.
It
Even
can be.
It'll pull up things that you've researched from Google. You know,
Retargeting, baby.
right?
Ad roll, retargeting. Oh, they love you. They want you. They want your eyeballs, and they're willing to pay for them. They do. You want their eyeballs too, though.
I do.
You do. It's true. It's true.
Your eyes.
Yeah, I'm going to let you pull the hook on me. Everybody's happy, so. All right, but you would like to go home, I guess, and see Frederick, maybe. No, I'm just kidding. No, you don't want to go home and see Frederick? Oh, wow, I just got you in trouble. I didn't even mean to. I'm sorry. Apparently we have time for one more question. But if you want to ask a question afterwards or want to, by the way, if you have a question about result flow, you can email me, Michelle plus RF at marketersbraintrust.com. If you have questions about result flow and want to know any more about that particular software, I'm happy to answer those questions. Garrett, you had the question.
Can you talk about, like you mentioned earlier about creating an avatar. So my experience, like I run a blog as well, and I've had to pivot in the past because I thought I had a clear picture of who my audience was, but then I actually started using the metrics either from Facebook,
Google demographics.
stuff like that, and then I realized that actually my audience was a lot more narrower. It was women. It was 35 to 45. So then at the time I didn't have a product to sell. So once I started selling, I actually knew how to better choose products to sell because I had a clearer picture based on analytics and data from social media and such to tell me who my target. Like how you said about the groomsmen. Like
Right,
you
right.
start out in one space and it's like, oh, okay.
I don't need dudes anymore. I need dudes getting married.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I need dudes getting married who are 24 to 39, you know, because they'll spend $120 for their dudes, right? Yeah, but every once in a while we got somebody who'd spend $120 on one order for just themselves, and that's okay too. So I think your question was, do you find that avatars can shift? Absolutely. Businesses shift. You know, Mary, how many people come to you now as a business owner who don't already have some kind of a website? Not many. But 10 years ago, your customer would have been more people who don't have websites yet. And it's just how the market shifts, and then understanding who you're actually already attracting. You may not even realize. I saw a dip across all of pay per click. I don't know if you guys did, around the 10th, 11th, 12th. As Pokemon was peaking, I saw pay per click impressions going down. I mean, across 40 different accounts as a sum. And so one of the customers told me, they said, that can't be because of Pokemon. Pay per click ads, like impressions. In July. So Pokemon was the second week out, and we saw a dip, and I mean across 40 different accounts, not just not just like one account. And so the one person that happened to have the conversation with me about it happens to sell to people who are 24 to 36. I'm telling you, dude, they were out in Central Park playing. They didn't care about your T-shirts. So, does that help? You guys, this has been fun. Thank you so much.